Food fascism. Food fascism. And it's time to believe women.
It's true.
And particularly one woman in particular that we're thinking of. Welcome to another thrilling edition of the Scottish Liberty Podcast, number 105, with that man again.
The other guy.
Antony Sammeroff, and me, cynicism on stilts, Tom Laird.
Right. Thank you for joining us. There is so many stories to cover this week in the news. News did not stop happening, which is interesting because often we go through the papers and we're like, there's bugger all happening. That's why I insist on us interviewing economists and things like that. Tam's just making himself comfortable getting his jacket off. Now, Google Livestream has a completely new interface, and I don't actually know how to share screens with you at home. But that's what I'd like to do for those of you who are tuning in on YouTube. Those of you who are in your car are like, just get on with the bloody show, Antony. Exactly. What's the dealio? So,
I'm not even in a car, and I'm thinking that.
We're going to start with some Scottish stuff, then we're going to go international.
Oh, you're going international on your ass.
The Scottish Liberty Podcast is bigger than you think. We've got a lot of new fans.
It's not the only thing that's bigger than you think right here.
Could you spell it out, please? What are you referring to? I have no idea. It seems to me that you're implying something. It seems that, you're implying that your brain's bigger than it looks.
What do you think?
I don't know. That's the thing. I really am not very good at reading between the lines. That's the thing.
Between my legs.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel
my ears.
I feel like that was an oblique reference to something as well. Could you explain that one for me? When you said reading between my legs, what were you trying to imply?
Well, I was trying to imply, never mind.
Okay. Okay, I'm no longer
I'm going to get in enough trouble today.
I'm going to go, yes, so we're going to cover some Me Too related stuff. You really want to stick around for that.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing hilarious about women being sexually assaulted.
Nothing.
But this particular news story, it's freaking hilarious.
It's gold.
It's comedy gold, right? So, first of all, the government basically the UK government is destroying liberty by 1,000 tiny cuts. Mm-hmm. And I want to give you the lowdown on the crackdown of Scottish junk food. Now, we've covered the SNP, the Scottish National Party, for those of you in the States before.
Scottish Notional Party.
We've got an episode for anyone interested in that called "What Has the SNP Ever Done to Us?" Yep. Where we go through the poor credentials of the SNP as a libertarian party on any front. They're terrible on civil liberties. They're terrible on economic liberty. But now what they're doing is they're cracking down on junk food, and I love the title of this article on it. Views sought on Scottish junk food crackdown. Now, you would think that meant the government was going around asking people, so what do you think? What do you think of us taxing junk food?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Taxing fizzy drinks.
What do you think of us making it illegal to make junk food free, this, that, and the other? No, that's not what they're consulting people from. They're only consulting people on whether they want more of this. Yeah. Do you think, given that we've done such a great job of putting restrictions on supersized soft drinks, free refills, you're not allowed to multi-buy, you're not allowed to put a multi-buy offer in the supermarket where if you buy this one bag of 12 crisps, you get another bag of 12 packets of crisps free.
It's becoming easier to buy heroin in Scotland
right.
than it is to actually buy some foods.
And we do have an obesity epidemic, we're told, but there's...
Well, we're told, but I mean, it's not like I see obese
it's not like
everywhere.
You fat fucks in America.
And goodbye, we'd go to about 300 listeners and viewers.
Sorry. Yeah. All I'm saying is, right, it's totally untrue that all Americans are fat. That's totally untrue. But see, when you are fat, it's freaking impressive. It's like you had to put in effort to get that whale-like. Like, there should be awards. And we don't see
obese.
We don't see
I thought that was
we don't see that much of that. We don't see that degree of obesity here very often.
Yeah, when you the Americans go large, you go large.
Yeah, everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah,
including the waistlines.
All my exes live in Texas. Somebody sang that. Don't know what it was.
Well, this says 2/3 of adults in Scotland are overweight and 29% are said to be obese. Well, I was 52 kilograms forever, and in the last few months have gone up 8 kilograms to 60. Shocking.
What, after they banned fizzy drinks?
I know, that just goes and shows how inefficacious the SNP's policies on obesity are. So basically, they're going around saying that
turning the joint upside down.
Turning 110 tons of sugar are purchased. Do we have subsidies on sugar here? Because I know America has subsidies on sugar. That sounds like a great tobacco.
It wouldn't surprise me if we subsidised sugar and then taxed it at the same time.
Well, that's the kind of Atlas Shrugged-esque. The thing is with government policies, they just keep on adding stuff, and then it's quite interesting because that's just the way that human language works as well. You say something, then you tack something on the end of it, then you tack something on the end of it. So it's very different from writing in a way where you try and plan out an essay to tackle all of your points. When you speak, you start speaking and you kind of arrive where you're going to by tacking things onto it. Government's kind of like that, and that it's totally tacky, and that it just keeps on adding stuff. So, we've got food subsidies for milk and dairy farmers, and then we go, oh, people are consuming too much fattening meat. Let's put a tax on the meat. Yeah. Why don't you just remove the subsidy for the dairy farmers? Oh no, we couldn't do that because they're basically a group that's going to lobby for their subsidy. So for this intervention to be reasonable and proportionate, it's vital the Scottish government are forensic in identifying and justifying the products which they put into the scope of these restrictions. So this is
not only are they going to restrict certain offers that you might get, 2-for-1 offers or whatever. They're talking about actually interfering in the way a shop owner would lay out his store. You can't. Right. You won't be able to have these types of foods in your window or near the till or on a low level where kids can get at them.
Why don't you put subsidies on apples and oranges and good foods instead? I don't want to give them any ideas, but it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, what are they? There's so many levels in which, I mean, I can see someone who's not got a libertarian perspective saying that's kind of. It makes sense, we've got an obesity problem, so why not tax bad food and put a subsidy on good food to help people make better decisions?
Yeah.
I guess I would always be looking at you're not really addressing the source of the problem apart from anything else. Like, I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think more government is the solution. People are just like when they tried to ban they tried to penalize people for eating sugar in the US. Yeah. What happens is they just move to high glucose, fructose syrup, that corn syrup, corn sugar, which arguably was worse for people's health and created more obesity and stuff like that. Where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. So if the government wants to deal with addictive behaviors, well, I don't think they should be. But you need to address the will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that addictive behaviors in general are self-medication for poor emotional states. If you look at the work of the psychologist Gabor Mate in the realm of the hungry ghosts, he talks about, he works with junkies, and I don't think that's the PC term. Addicts and
users, drug users,
and self-medication for a lack of connection. But you were going to say?
No, all I was going to say, I don't think it's the government's business to get involved in this and what people eat. Now, I guess what most people come at you with on this is, Adam Smasher has joined us.
And he says, Gabor Mate had a huge impact on my life. Well, if you leave a little comment explaining why, we'll read it out later.
Life, very good. Yeah, life is rife. So Adam Smasher, welcome, but you've made me lose my train of thought. You get what was it? What was it talking about?
You were talking about how
liberty and that.
You could come at. You were saying you don't think the government has a place in trying to make people more healthy, but you could come at it.
People would, exactly. So the people would come back at you with, well, you know, it puts a burden on the NHS.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean,
just the same as smoking puts a burden on the NHS, and skateboarding.
Well, yeah, we don't need to go through the same points we've gone through in our previous, which is to go. Well, obviously the NHS creates incentives which wouldn't exist, and like if you had an insurance system, then people could be penalised for taking unhealthy choices, and it would be in the interests of the insurance cooperatives or companies, whatever form they take, to get good information on how to make their clients and penalize their clients according to what really was unhealthy, because we get so much conflicting advice on health these days. But
I mean, didn't we even have a health minister here in Scotland at one time who was actually obese?
I think that, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
So what do you, I mean, people are going
to say, not as we do.
People can make all sorts of arguments like, well, in the modern world, we're just exposed to things that we're not psychologically or physiologically meant to. Like, I mean, sugar and fruit used to be rare, so we're biologically wired up to crave sugary foods, and you know,
and they're putting lots of sugar in things that maybe you wouldn't suspect it.
Sure, but
bread, for example.
I've noticed over the last couple of years, there's a lot. When you used to get a ready meal at the supermarket, it used to be really salty. They're not anymore.
Right.
I've noticed, and I think that's not because of the government. I think it's because people became aware, you know, through advocacy that, oh, you shouldn't be eating so much salt. The same as when that study came out that's saying numbers were bad for kids.
Yeah.
A lot of the chewy sweets, they just stopped putting numbers in.
Yeah.
They started using natural colorings because the parents, the newspaper. So there's a place for the media to do its job and advocate properly.
Yeah. Health watchdogs, etc.
But I think incentives are important, and all the more reason, coming back to your NHS point, to have people responsible for the consequences of their actions, so that people who take very healthy lifestyle choices aren't forced at gunpoint to pay through the tax system for the healthcare of people who get chronic illnesses because they make poor life decisions. So, yeah, I mean, we could go on and on tangents. We've done the NHS before. An interesting feature was they announced, right, see, I don't know what it's like in America, but see if you go into an Indian restaurant here, or if you go to a takeaway, they sometimes give you some poppadoms, which are like deep fried, kind of bready things.
Like giant chips.
They're really tasty. And in Chinese restaurant,
in sense, not chips,
prawn crackers. And the government wanted to make it illegal to give out these foods complimentary. And this was announced 2 days ago. They said it's now going to be illegal to hand out these complimentary entrees.
On pain of what? What are they going to do? I mean, what's going to be the penalty for handing out free prawn crackers?
12 lashings.
12 lashings of what?
Bacon.
Okay.
So here's a taste of your own medicine. If you're going to make people unhealthy, well, we're going to make you unhealthy. That's an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is there was an outcry, and within 8 hours they backtracked on it. But this is just what they do. They just throw these things out, and if there's enough of an outcry to go, oh, sorry, we didn't mean it. Honestly, we're not fascists. But what it is it's part of an overall message we're getting from the Scottish government, which is your children and you can't do without us.
Yeah. It's very much a nanny state.
In the Scotland, in this Scotland, back in the Scotland.
Just in case you confuse it with any other Scotland.
This
Scotland.
You can't go in and you can't actually see cigarettes in any newsagent or corner shop.
Yeah.
They've got them behind a paywall. They've got them behind these metal railings, so you can't actually see the selection of the cigarettes. Yeah. They brought that law in. Yeah.
They can't even tell you what's the cheapest packet.
If you go, what's the cheapest packet? They can't tell you. They have to offer you a cardboard piece of cardboard
menu.
Yeah, which you can read the prices of. It's ridiculous. I mean, even in our first show, we covered the fascism against smokers.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's a couple of other things that are a little bit more national. It's this in Scotland. Costa Coffee advert was banned for criticizing avocado breakfasts. It's like a great deal on ripen at home avocados, but they'll only be ready to eat for about 10 minutes, then they'll go off. And they suggest you choose the better deal of a roll or egg muffin. And 2 listeners complained at the ad, and they were banned for...
the listeners of the ad?
The advert was banned for discouraging people from eating avocados and suggesting they have a muffin instead.
Why not just ban advertising, while they're at it? Because if you're saying you can't, I mean, what's the? They said it's broken. What was it? The UK Code of Advertising. In as much as that it was false information.
I don't really know what the. I think I was assuming that it was based on the continued concern for people's health, but I could be mistaken on that. It said, we considered, although the ad was light-hearted, it nevertheless suggested avocados were a poor breakfast choice and that a bacon roll or egg muffin would be a better alternative, and in doing so, discouraged the selection of avocados. So basically, it sounds like it's got a regulation that states that comparisons between foods must not discourage fruit and vegetables. So that's their law. You're not allowed to discourage the consumption of fruits.
People are too stupid to make up their own mind.
But do you know what? Everyone knows that fruits and vegetables are better for you than most of the crap they eat. Yeah. But they still eat. They still eat the crap, and they don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. So unless you're planning on forcing them to this is just futile. Resistance is futile. Do you want to do any more about food fascism?
Well, I wondered if we were going to do the thing about the Natasha's law.
Yeah. Okay. So we're still on food.
Still on food. This is probably making everybody hungry out there. But whatever you do, don't eat anything that's bad for you, or the Scottish government will get you. Tragically, a young girl died after eating a Pret a Manger sandwich. That's not normal, but she died after taking an allergy. She had an allergy to sesame seeds, and there was one or a few of these sesame seeds in the sandwich that she had, and unfortunately, tragically, she died. And understandably, the parents are upset, the family's upset, and now what they're calling for, as if we didn't have enough laws, on food, we want a special law called Natasha's Law, which will force sandwich makers like Pret a Manger to put clear labelling on their products. Now, I'm not saying that clear labelling of products is not necessarily a good idea, but to force companies to do it is an added cost. Now, I would guess that if you suffer from allergies out there, especially an allergy that could kill you. I mean, I know somebody who if they have a mussel, do they call them mussels in America? It's like seafood. And if he has one of those, I mean, he's headed for the hospital and it could kill him. So it's kind of caveat emptor, buyer beware. You have to be incredibly. I mean, this girl was only 15 years old, but I mean, even at 15, it's sad. But I don't think what we need is another law. I mean, how would you, even if you put labels on the clearly labeled, there's nothing to prevent something getting into that sandwich by accident.
Yeah.
And I think if you suffer from an allergy that could kill you, it's probably a good idea you make your own sandwiches. That's my view. Is that harsh? I mean,
Well,
how much do you really need to
say?
put?
I mean, people are always sorry. It's just there's no. You can't basically cover everyone in the world with bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And it's like how many Pret a Manger sandwiches are consumed a day across the nation, across the world?
Millions of
must be, you know, at least tens of thousands at a minimum, if not hundreds of thousands. So this happens once.
Yeah.
And
which was enough, obviously.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
girl, like, think about how many people die on the roads each year.
Yeah.
Okay. It's tragic. I'm so sorry that Natasha died. My heart my heart goes out to her parents. But you don't hold. This is like a small scale, like the war on terror, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 9/11 was a terrible atrocity, but why does that one thing happen? Then dictate foreign policy for the next 17 years, right? No offense to, again, I'm being harsh on the Americans here, but I know that you guys at home hate your countrymen as much as we hate your countrymen. So
I don't speak for yourself, Antony.
Either way, anyway.
I think America's great.
No, I think America's
certainly
great.
is now. Donald Trump's made it great again.
Yeah, at last America's great again. Thank you. But no, I mean, it's like, I love America as an idea, and I think that American people are some of the most friendly, warm people in the world, generally speaking.
Well
I'm not a collectivist though. But when I say you hate your countrymen, what I mean is for being like rabid statists, right? But it's like the same thing was happening to all. Like, how many people were dying in Iraq through sanctions placed on them? Like, one estimate says 500,000 children died because of these sanctions. Some people say that's way more than is realistic. Some people say it's a conservative estimate. So it's like one incident defines everything because it makes headlines. It's like Sam Harris talks about this example, right? We could give you a story about one little girl that was suffering in Sudan, or let's say Yemen, because Yemen is happening. Yeah. And that would gain more donations on average than showing or telling you about a bunch of people or showing you video footage of a bunch of different people, even though rationally you go, wow, there's loads of suffering there. So that's more of a call to arms. That means we need to put more resources in. The personal story really reaches people. And it's just one girl dies and people lose all sense of proportion. And so it's like...
So Michael Gove is the name of the politician, British politician.
He's a conservative
politician. And he has said he's considering introducing this law so that no one else should suffer such a needless and pointless death. I don't know that the law is going to prevent needless and pointless deaths, I'm afraid. And I don't think we need another law. I'm sure that this incident will make Pret a Manger, think twice and go back to the drawing board and make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. They can't really afford to have this kind of tragic accident going on. It's bad for their business. Sorry, that sounds cold, but it's ultimately bad for their business. So
capitalism is essentially benign. I mean, despite its press.
Yeah.
The interests
of
suppliers are aligned with the interests of customers.
Absolutely. You don't make profit by killing your customers. It's just not good. So I really don't think there's any need for another law, especially to do with labelling. I mean, what does this also do for smaller businesses?
Who can't afford the resources. So you're basically making it easier for
by the way, this would only affect pre-packaged sandwiches. So if somebody makes you a fresh sandwich,
I think that was the problem. Basically, if you go into the supermarket and buy a sandwich, the ingredients are on it,
Yeah.
but because Prett were making them on the premises, or for some reason there was a loophole where they didn't have to have the ingredients. But the thing is, if you've got an allergy that's going to kill you, I mean, you really should ask, you know, does this have sesame seeds in it? It's just common sense. Now, there's 8 of you watching live, but we've only heard from Adam Smasher. So if you are out there, feel free to drop in a comment. Love to hear from you. So why are you laughing?
Adam Smasher says, "Oi mate, have you got a license for that batter?"
Yeah. So next
up.
Next story.
Next story.
This is just a short one, right? Basically, Plymouth I just want to demonstrate how liberty is in attack all over the UK at the moment, like in the most subtlest of ways. Basically, a conservative student society got suspended over T-shirts they were wearing. They obviously went out on a drinking rampage,
sort of like a sort of fresher week sort of jape or some sort of thing like that.
Yeah, like a Freshers Week thing, and one of them had "fuck the NHS" written on their T-shirt. It's interesting because if you look at the picture that I'm looking at, unfortunately, I don't see the share screens function on the new.
We shall rectify that for next time,
if it's actually possible.
Yeah. But you can find this story at BBC if you can, if you can get onto that.
Plymouth University Tory group suspended over T-shirts. The same one that's got "fuck the NHS" written on his T-shirt also has "I love" and then the hammer and sickle. But no one took the time to comment that that's shocking indictment, because millions of people, hundreds of millions of people have died at the hands of the hammer and sickle. You know, no one was outraged against that. There's a pretty good-looking Tory broad there as well.
She's a fit-looking bird. You don't often see a fit-looking Tory bird.
And she's the only girl in the picture, so far as I can see. I bet they were all after her that night. They all failed miserably.
Well, they're all literally after her. That guy with the glasses on there.
But I'm guessing that she'll probably hook up with some commie. So one of them also criticised for having a Hitler moustache drawn on them. So they were basically getting drunk and having a jolly, and they wrote. Some people said that they had anti-Semitic messages emerged, but I don't know if that's true. Like, some in the picture appear to have a Star of David drawn on their necks, while one appears to have a Hitler-style moustache.
One person in the photo had an abusive anti-NHS message. When did the NHS become God?
But how is it abusive? I mean, I swear to God, if it was a bunch of lefties, they'd have "fuck capitalism" written on their T-shirts.
And no one would
bat an eyelid, but saying "fuck the NHS." Well, do you know what? Every year, people die on NHS waiting lists. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's good reasons to be critical of it.
How many people?
4 things. I don't know, but
I wasn't quite million.
Probably not million.
Slight exaggeration. I need to do a bit of research there on that one.
Yeah, I will have a figure when I'm going to put out a mini ebook on healthcare.
Excellent.
Next. Have you got
a book out at the moment?
Oh yeah, I should mention that, because we didn't really plug it on the show. Well, I plugged it last time, but if you've not already, you can go to beyourselfandloveit.com/UBI and download my free ebook, Universal Basic Income For and Against. It's really short. You'll read it in under 2 hours or about that.
I've read it. It's pretty darn good.
I think it's a good book, and the great thing is, if you get the free version, you can email it to your lefty friends. I think it's a really great introduction to libertarianism that speaks the language.
However, if you have any lefty friends, we don't like you anymore.
Right. Yeah, please download that. Also, a few people have bought it on Amazon Kindle, despite the fact that it's out for free. So if you were one of those people who actually parted with money for my book, despite the fact that I encouraged you to download the free version, thank you very much. It's deeply appreciated. And if you're one of the people who's not, well, it's still up there on Amazon Kindle. Sorry.
So the most sickening part of that story for me is the fact that some conservative MP for Plymouth Moor, a guy called Johnny Mercer, condemned the photo and said that the party should, quote, "eject and bar for life," unquote, those responsible.
Virtue
And here's his tweet, okay? Johnny Mercer, MP, whoever he is, says, totally unrepresentative and separate to the Conservative Association I have built in Plymouth Moor. Idiots with no place in the Conservative Party. No need to suspend pending investigation, eject and bar for life. These are kids, okay? Right. Stop hating on kids, right, who are just having a good time. You know? The kids are all right. The kids are all right.
The kids are all right. He should have come out and said, come on now, guys. These students are just having a jolly. And he should say what we said. I'm sure that if they were left-wing students, they'd have "fuck capitalism" written on their T-shirts. Yeah. Even though it's like only thanks to the wealth that's generated by capitalism.
Or F the Tories.
Yeah. People always have F the Tories everywhere. And we're going from that cuck to another cuck soon. But first, I just want to...
Could even be our cuck of the year.
Yeah. But before we do that, I'm just whetting your appetite. Another university has agreed to ban clapping to avoid triggering anxiety. The University of Manchester, this is what we have to put up with in the UK.
Do you see the shit that we have to put up with?
I am just waiting for the online universities to get better than the real life universities so that... Yeah. You know, university must die, unfortunately. I liked university.
Quickly talking about university.
Did you go to university?
I didn't go to university. I went to the University of Life, the School of Hard Knocks, the kindergarten. I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. So, yeah, I didn't go to uni. I was too busy actually learning something important.
I just said that to shame Tam, because he's clearly far more intelligent than that, and most people would have assumed that given his brains he'd have a degree, but you don't have a degree, do you?
I don't have. I've had the third degree.
Do you know who does have a degree?
You?
Oh yeah, I graduated. Do you know what I also did a postgrad in counselling skills?
Fantastic. But talking of university, our very own Antony here will be giving a lecture at Stirling University, no less. So if you're in the area of Stirling University on the 17th of October at 7 o'clock in the evening, he will be giving a talk on liberty under threat. Liberty under threat. So this is the kind of shit, and I can't go, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd go along and do jazz hands while Antony was talking.
So these are I'm collecting these ridiculous stories to show how under threat liberty is.
There's two things I've noticed that a lot of SJWs and feminists do at their gigs. You know, when somebody makes a salient point, or whatever, they don't clap anymore. They either do jazz hands, or they do this thing. It's like Sammy the Crab.
Are you saying the lobsters?
Yeah.
Are you saying that feminists are all lobsters, social justice warriors?
Yeah.
Should we base our society on the lobsters?
I think we should base our society. If you're going to base society on any crustacean, I think probably a lobster's a good place to start. Any comments?
We have. Someone's commenting on the title of our show, which is "It's Time to Believe in Women." I was told by my uncle, "Listen, Alan, men are silly cunts, pal. We tend to fuck up, but see, women, they are fucked up. Lol, the daily pressures in a woman's head drives them nuts."
Controversial.
That's Alan McVicker. Yeah. Views expressed by commenters are not necessarily representative of those of the Scottish Liberty podcast.
I think that's a
He goes on to say, hair, nails, eyes, brows, structure, worries. Man tend to be that laid back, we fuck up. In other words, men might fuck up, but women are fucked up. Well,
that's basically what he's saying.
Do you want to mention Atty Chris's comment?
Atty Chris, hey guys, yeah, hi Atty Chris, welcome to the show. I think it's the first time we've had Atty Chris making a comment or saying hi. It's good to see you. I wonder if Atty Chris has got any views on jazz hands. Are you doing jazz hands at the minute, Atty Chris? Or are you reading a jazz mag,
even
for example?
Oxford, he says.
He says what?
Even Oxford is starting to become a joke. Some of the best intellectuals in the world are agreeing with ridiculous ideas. Well, they can't be that great. Jazz hands always for you guys.
As long as it's not jazz hands, we're absolutely fine.
The only one I heard was this, like at spoken word events, sometimes they click instead of clapping,
Yeah.
so that you don't drown out the speaker. If you think something is really tasty, if they make a good rhyme or they make a good point, you click, clip, click. Anyway, I don't
get what is it about clapping that triggers people or makes them upset or anxious?
Do you know what? I'm at a loss. Does the article it was argued that the loud noise of traditional clapping and whooping pose an issue to students with anxiety or sensory issues. Do you know what? Then what are they doing in university? You know, shouldn't they get their issues sorted first, then go to university? Why do they have to hold everyone hostage?
Yeah. What if they're just anxious
so
about
selfish.
other people? You know, you're going to have a special lecture just for them.
Just for them, exactly. Stop holding us all to ransom. But the other thing I would just add on this, if I can remember the point I was about to make, is just coming back to you. Some of you might have heard of Jonathan Haidt, his great book. What's his great book called?
It's called The Righteous Mind.
That's it. Excellent book. He was talking about how him and a colleague started working on this issue, and they were basically saying in psychology, when they were going to people who dealt with people who have things like post-traumatic stress disorder, the way to deal, you know, how do they deal with it? They deal with it by systematic desensitization. So if you've got arachnophobia, you're afraid of spiders, also a horror movie that was popular when I was growing up.
I thought it was a fear of Iraqis. That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. So what they do, well, they'll get you to draw a picture of a spider, and then you get, that might make you anxious, and then you calm down, and then they build you up to bringing a spider into the room, and then when you freak out, they take it out and they give you time to calm down. Now, by subjecting yourself to the stimulus that triggers you, you can desensitize yourself to that stimulus. And they're saying, well, look, if you're organizing the university itself against the principle, on the principle of not exposing people to anything, including these days ideas that they might find triggering, for fuck's sake.
You must have diversity, but not diversity of ideas.
You're making people less resilient instead of more. But that's not really the point, is it? I mean, people should have the liberty to clap if they want. And I guess if it's your premises, you've got the right to tell them not to.
Yeah. Why don't you could just go and wear a big pair of
everywhere I go,
your defenders or something. I really don't know. But
everywhere I go, I see public funds spreading cultural Marxism. I just had a visitor the other day, so I took him to a couple of art galleries, and in one I had to leave because I was triggered. I was genuinely triggered by a display that used the word social justice in it, and I'm like, this gallery is publicly funded. Why are they advocating for a particular left-wing view of the world? It's and also, then we went to another art gallery, and they had this thing on the wall which was saying, do you believe in this innocuous statement, this other innocuous statement? Well, congratulations, then you're a feminist. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't describe myself as a feminist, because you're not fooling anyone. We know that feminism is not about equality between men and women.
How about we could do a thing where you could make a statement saying, do you believe in full employment?
Right.
Do you believe in banning blood sports? Congratulations, you're a Nazi.
Right.
You know, it's. I think people would realise there's a bit more to National Socialism than just banning blood sports and creating full employment. And it's the same with feminism.
So
there's a lot more to it than supposedly just creating equality. And even if it was, I think equality is a stupid idea. There you go.
Yeah. Right.
It's
impossible. It's unachievable apart from anything else, because no one's equal to anyone else. Some people are more equal than others. So.
I guess it's not achievable, and even to try and achieve it takes a tyranny. You know, you really need tyranny in order to even try and achieve equality. It's a nonsense.
And you're going to basically make the tall people shorter, right? You're not going to make the tall people taller, the short people taller, metaphorically speaking. And it's interesting because when you like cultural Marxism,
Sorry, Atticus says, do you believe in forgiveness? Congratulations, you're a Christian.
Nice one.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, by that metric, you're not much of a Christian.
No, I'm pretty unforgiving.
You're a vegetable. You're a vegetable. You're a vengeful person. You're a vengeful person. But like, it's quite interesting because cultural Marxism isn't actually Marxism. Like, they're just two different bludgeons that the left used to swing at us. The tenets of cultural Marxism, basically, like, Marxism believes that revolution is inevitable and that, you know, as part of the movement of history and is kind of like an extension of the Enlightenment. Yeah. Whereas cultural Marxism is like, the Enlightenment was bollocks. The world sucks. You know, this optimism is nonsense. They hate the Frankfurt School didn't like the modernists thinking.
Are you coming around to my way of thinking on the Frankfurt School? Because you were in the past you've been quite sort of what's the word for it, conciliatory.
No, I basically think that they were wrong on almost everything important.
Yeah.
But I don't think...
Tell the people out there who the Frankfurt School were.
Oh, sorry, for anyone that doesn't know. So in Germany and then in America, you had an organization called the Frankfurt School who...
They were basically academics who skedaddled from Germany when the Nazis came to power because they were Jews mainly.
The reason why...
And left-wingers.
The reason why the work that... The people that... The ideas that came... I think these ideas would be popular now even if it wasn't for the Frankfurt School, but their writings became the basis of what's called cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
Now,
Theodor Adorno, Marcuse, Herbert Marcuse. Was Sololinsky in that?
I don't think so. He was a precursor. Walter Benjamin. They had a psychologist called Erich Fromm who went on to write some half-decent self-help books. But I think...
Yeah, help yourself to other people's money. That was one of them.
Well, I think he did think... He had the view that capitalism as a system was sociologically damaging and created dysfunction. Of course, they never really define capitalism. Capitalism is just whatever we have now.
But isn't it strange though that when they skedaddled out of Germany, they didn't go to the Soviet Union. They went to the home of capitalism. They went to America, and then when they got there, instead of going, "This is great, we're not getting gassed," instead of saying that, they thought, "Oh, look at all this disgusting capitalism."
I know, but one of the things is one of them's still alive. Jürgen Habermas. I don't know what age he is. He's in his 80s or 90s.
Habermas is still alive.
Yeah, okay. And he's for this like.
Not to be confused with Quatermass, the science fiction scientist.
I should answer your question. I basically think, that first of all, they were influenced by Marx and they were influenced heavily by Freud. They believed all this stuff about, sexual repression. But they're not... It's arguable that cultural Marxism is actually, in many ways, goes against the tenets of Marxism. So it's not actually Marxist at all, and that it basically disagrees with several points of Marxism. But they're just two bludgeons. And you know what it's like with the left? When you beat them on any argument, they just find a new argument. So like the old left believed that socialism would be more productive. Communism would be more productive than capitalism because you'd get rid of the parasitic landlords and the capitalists and the landowners, and then obviously society will be much more productive. When that proved wrong, then they just became oh no, being too productive is bad. It makes people consumerist. It makes life soul destroying. It's bad for the environment. So the Frankfurt School, basically my analysis of them was they're wrong, but I don't think that they were malicious. I think basically what you had is a bunch of people looking around society and being like, I think society is very alienating and soul destroying, and they blamed that on capitalism. That they thought that that when you went out to work in a factory, say, all day, that would affect your mindset and you'd become this kind of automaton. And when you went home, you weren't willing to think critically. And it was in a way anti-individualist in an ironic way, because they are collectivists, but they considered themselves to be concerned with authenticity and everything, and art, and they thought that capitalism, like Marx, they thought that capitalism created alienated labor. We can talk about it more.
It strikes me that they were eternally pissed off at the working classes.
That's a good point as well. A difference between Marxism and cultural Marxism, which is Marxism predicted that revolution would come from the working class. Whereas cultural Marxism says, no, it's got to come from the middle class, the educated people who are woken up to see what's going on.
They were really, and and you'll see this actually, this attitude in a lot of modern leftists in academia. They have an almost contempt for the masses, for the working classes, because they were too stupid to embrace this great idea called this great utopia called Marxism or communism. They roundly rejected it in most of the Western countries, and these guys, certainly the Frankfurt School, were just really pissed off at working class people.
Right.
But we digress.
We do digress, but it was a good digression. The thing is, I saw that
McNamara joined us. Hi, Stevie, and he just says, as for legislation, it's completely pointless, as every label will be exempt by just stating about the risk of cross-contamination in its products. Okay, pointless.
Clapping mimics the sound of gunshots, according to Adam Smasher. I didn't mind going on the tangent because I know we've got kind of 2 small stories left, but I saw that we were only on about 35 minutes, and I know we can get away with doing our shows because you guys love us. So
we're feeling the love.
Here's the best news of the week. Genuinely the best.
It's been the best news I've heard for a while.
For ages, right? US women's right campaigner accused of sexual harassment. When does that ever happen? When do people who loudly virtue signal ever end up being accused of being creepoids? More of the left's eating its own. Yeah,
so eminent, this is not our view, this is according to The Guardian, eminent sociologist Michael Kimmel steps down from board of Gender Equality Campaign Group over an allegation. I think this woman should be believed.
I know, she must be believed. Now, I have to say, we've mentioned Kimmel on the show before. He has a piece of work. He was consulted. I can't remember what it was on, but it was something to do with making courses in gender studies and men's studies. And of course, he is selling men's studies through the prism of patriarchy, and basically at any opportunity possible, he sells out men. And boys. He lampooned Warren Farrell for his sterling work, The Myth of Male Power. Warren Farrell, who started 300 women's groups as well as 300 men's groups, and listened to both men and women and articulated their grievances. The Liberated Man was his kind of call for men to become feminists in the 70s. Which was based on listening to women in 300 women's groups and articulating their concern. He then did the same thing with men. He started 300 men's groups, he listened to what their problems were, and he condensed his findings into a book called Why Men Are the Way They Are, based on real, genuine research, right? This guy is scum. If you watch the Red Pill documentary with Cassie J, he basically just invalidates all any concern that any men might have. He demeans men by just basically, not in such words, but by basically calling them crybabies who are trying to who are reactionary and trying to turn back the tides on the rights that women have gained, as though their only concern could be wanting women back in the kitchen or something like that.
Unfortunately, as well, he was due to receive a prestigious Jesse Bernard Award. Who knew there was such a thing? From the American Sociological Association. Do you want to give
people a quick...
In recognition of his contribution to women's equality studies. Ladies, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Never, ever turn your back on a male feminist. They are creepoids, mainly. That's why they get into it, to try and... They're wolves in sheep's clothing, a lot of these guys,
So you want to mention who Jessie Bernard is?
I think you should. I'm not no clue who Jessie Bernard is.
She was a feminist scholar.
Or if you're American, Jessie Bernard.
I don't really actually know, to be honest, because I'm not that up on my feminist history. But she was a sociologist and noted feminist scholar. She was a persistent forerunner of feminism.
She looks like Harpo Marx.
She was alive from 1903 to 96, so she was fucking there, man, when it all happened. So she must have been a forerunner. Anyway, the thing is, it's like, see all those virtue signaling lefties in Hollywood that were, basically continuously talking about social justice issues, and all of them knew that Harvey Weinstein was a creepoid, but none of them came forward until, oh yeah, I knew about that after the fact. Yeah. There's something about this virtue signaling thing. Like, you guys know that we're all right because we're blatantly complete cunts, we don't pretend that we're squeaky clean. We say controversial things, we make fun of each other, we make fun of you, and you still put up with us. You must love it. You've got battered wife syndrome. Week after week, you just keep on returning to listen to the Scottish Liberty podcast.
You deliberately trying. I thought the idea was to get more listeners.
What is wrong with you retards at home? Sorry, I just I'm enjoying myself. So basically, I just find this squeaky cleanness, and I think being a social justice warrior, being a vocal virtue signaler, is part of this having to always appear squeaky clean and have people like you. And that's why these Hollywood who's wouldn't want to rock the boat by mentioning that Harvey Weinstein's a creepoid because, what if I get in trouble? Oh no, what if I get in trouble? People need to like me, and I really think that is correlated with being weird, basically. Behind closed doors. Yeah. So, but I don't know, because you know what the left are like. They eat their own. Yeah. And it could be that it's over nothing. Now, you should, whatever, all caveats
what's the exact nature of the allegation?
Innocent until proven guilty, though.
Yeah.
And,
well, we would say that, but Kimmel's the very kind of guy
who would say, oh, you must believe women. Yeah. You must believe women. And he stepped down. Yeah. Did he admit guilt?
Yeah.
The former student who asked to remain anonymous said Kimmel had suggested that they have sex 6 weeks into her graduate course and later in her career. Now, I just add that Kimmel's married, okay? So...
Was he married at the time, though?
I don't know. I probably believe so, given that he's 67. Okay. So... I think he probably was married, but you can suggest you can breach your contract. You can suggest someone has sex with you without necessarily being harassing them. Now, she added that he had complimented her appearance, and remarked that she would.
He complimented her appearance. What a bastard!
What a bastard!
What a bastard.
But he would have done that if she was a man. So that's so sexist.
Yeah.
That. He remarked that she would have to work hard to prove that she reached her position as a result of her academic talents, not because she was sleeping with someone. Okay, well, he might have said that. In what context? It could have been inappropriate. It might have been, he might have just said, as a feminist, I'm concerned that this might be the case. Following the report, another former graduate student published a detailed account of their time working with Kimmel on the website Medium. Bethany Costa, now assistant professor of gender, sexuality, and women's studies at Virginia Commonwealth University.
Bullshit course for you.
I know. accused Kimmel of sexist behavior. Oh yes, he's definitely guilty of sexist behavior against men, in my opinion. Reverse sexism doesn't exist because sexism is power, blah, blah, blah. Such as giving paid work to male students while women were expected to work for free. Do you know what? I went into a PC world recently to talk to them about buying a new laptop because this one's getting pretty slow. And the first assistant came to me and she was female and ethnic. And I thought that couldn't help but think she might not. Well, she was all right, but I was thinking. Sorry. Now I'm instantly scared that she's not going to be able to advise me on what laptop to buy because she's a woman. And then I thought I don't want to seem sexist, so I'm going to ask her a question. And I have to say she wasn't very useful. But it's not because she's a woman, but it's just...
Generally speaking, I find the guys who work in PC world not very helpful.
Yeah.
You know that thing they do where you go, can you tell me about this product here? And they go over and they start reading the shit that's on the label. And you go, dude, I can actually read. You know,
But I thought it was a place where they trained their staff, but clearly it's wrong. There was a great electronic shop called Maplin's where the customer service was always excellent. But
I remember Maplin's. That's gone.
But it's gone. Yeah. Anyway, we could... Tangent for ages.
PC world, we're living in a PC world.
So this cuck Kimmel, he's a bad person. He's worked as a consultant for charities. Even if he didn't do it. All right. So Costa also accused him of homophobic and transphobic attitudes and a lack of respect for anyone but cisgender.
Well, I can tell you that Michael Kimmel has absolutely no respect for cisgender heterosexual men whatsoever.
No. He's sold out men and boys, and he's a bad person. And whether he did it or not, this is what happens when you put yourself up as a paragon of virtue and say stuff like, when I look in the mirror, I only see a man, but a woman sees themselves as a woman, and a black woman sees herself as a black woman, and I'm such a good person. Fuck you, Kimmel. You are a cuck of the year. Cuck-a-doodle-dude. You're the cuckle-doodle-dude of all time. Fuck you. And do you know what? If you did sexually harass someone, you should be going to prison. So, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. While we're in, did you just assume that he rode in on a horse? It could have been a donkey or an ass. Well, he has no end of an ass.
Well, he'll enjoy himself in prison anyway. There are a few gender issues going on in there as well.
That's true. Right, one more story.
Okay, in fact, it's just worth mentioning finally that he hasn't been convicted of anything yet.
But he did step down. He did step down, which
which means he's obviously as guilty as a weasel.
Well, you have to believe women, though. You have to believe women,
especially these two women.
It's funny how I allowed us to go on all these tangents because I thought we've got tons of time, and now we're coming up to an hour with one of our main stories.
Okay.
Oh well. California has become the first state to require women in the boardroom.
Require.
Okay. It's publicly traded companies, PLCs, need to.
And I guess they don't mean making the tea.
Or they need to be included on the board of directors.
Sorry, vacuuming, as they say in the UK.
One of several laws boosting or protecting women that Governor Jerry Brown, you're the shame we can't.
Unfortunately, we've just done the cuckle-doodle. Okay, you could be runner-up. Cuckle-doodle. Governor Jerry Brown. Okay.
Fuck you,
Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown, you're a clown.
Jerry Brown, you are a clown. Blaze me down. Right, okay. So tell us what you think of it first.
This idea that, well, I think that haven't they already, didn't they pioneer this thing in, of all places, would you believe, Sweden?
Came as the hashtag Me Too movement against sexual misconduct led to a reckoning nationwide that has ousted men from power.
I think we had a guy called Nima Sanandaji on the show, if you haven't listened to that episode.
One of our best episodes.
And he wrote a book called Debunking Utopia. about Sweden, and I'm sure he has a chapter in his book that deals with this, the fact that Sweden made a law requiring all boards to have 50% women.
And
however,
these all women all women shortlists in politics mentioned by Anne Widdecombe, which means that even if there's much more men applying for a position, then only women are considered. Go on.
No matter what you could be from that constituency, you could know that constituency, your kids go to school there, you've got a lot of experience, you're good at working with people, you know your constituents. Doesn't matter if you don't have a vag. So you can,
and that's so patronizing to women because they can't
absolutely.
they can't achieve on their own merits, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would hate, I don't know about anybody else, but I mean, I would hate to think I was in any job or any position simply because, you know, we need more bald people in this job, you know, so I would hate to think that I got the job over somebody else simply because of some box ticking exercise.
Well, I mean, the box was I didn't have anyone better to do a podcast with. You know, you were the best of a bad bunch, basically.
Okay, fair enough. So it sounds perfectly feasible to me. Yeah, far too plausible. Adam Smasher, the SLP definitely doesn't need more bald people.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm not bald. I've just got a strange shaped skull.
Yeah.
So
Adam Smasher, hairs for girls.
Here's today, gone tomorrow, and all cliches apply. Here's my concern about it.
Don't fuck with the baldies.
There's two of us and one of you, Adam Smasher. We'll see who's being smashed.
Yeah. Your bald statement.
Ow, my legs got bad pins in.
I mean, we do live in a baldest society. I'm fond of pointing out that the last Prime Minister who was bald was Clement Attlee. We haven't had a bald Prime Minister since him, and anybody who has been bald and attempted to become Prime Minister has failed. We've had more female Prime Ministers than we've had bald Prime Ministers in the last 50 years. So there's definitely baldism going on, and I'm going to stamp it out. It's going to be my mission as leader of the SLP.
Also, we should get a public subsidy.
Yeah, baldies should get subsidised. Not for combs, obviously. Don't need those.
There's the obvious points. There's the obvious points about you're basically going to get less competent people on the board because they're not being picked based on. It's in the interests of employers not to discriminate against women, because if she's the best person for the job, that's going to help their profits at the end of the day. As I say, capitalism is benign, is benevolent. In these respects, it's like it doesn't serve you not to take a talented person on just because they're a woman.
Because not only are you not taking on that person and benefiting from, you're actually giving them away to a competitor.
Exactly, they can go to a competitor. And it's really funny because there's a quote in the article which says, someone said, this will be good for profit, this will be good for business because women are more cooperative than men and they think differently and more creatively. Okay, well, businesses like to profit. So if it's
thought
true,
gender differences were merely a social construct.
Well, that's not
Isn't
what...
that the usual pattern?
So this woman said, Jackson said, no, this is the guy. Jackson, no, Senator Hannah Beth Jackson said, this is one of the last bastions of total male domination. We know that the public and businesses are not being well served by this level of discrimination. It's not fucking discrimination. Most women, and Warren Farrell demonstrated this, when they arrive at a salary of $500,000, are very, very, very unlikely to take a better paying job if it entails more hours. Women in general have a better sense of work-life balance than men do, and they are not willing to sacrifice friendships, time with the family, and things like that to the degree men are. Yeah. Now, maybe, for all I know, maybe a percentage of that is cultural, okay? But you don't change the culture by making a law. Yeah. You change the culture by influencing the culture. I'm willing to give, even I don't believe that it's cultural. I believe that at least it's probably 80-20, like everything else, 80% biological, 20% cultural in this case.
Yeah.
However, even if we give feminists that it's the culture, what's a law making them appoint women to a board going to do about the culture? You actually need to go down to the grassroots level and influence men and speak to them about, hey, have you ever thought that it might be worthwhile? And you're never going to. And the thing is, it's tied to reproduction as well, because men know that if they get more money, they're more eligible to women. Yeah. Whereas women, it's not a big bring to the table for a woman to be rich. I mean, it is, as far as I'm concerned. Like, if it'd be handy.
If there are any rich women out there who want to take us out to dinner.
Totally. And he does stress both of us, you know. Lucky night for you. If obviously you dispense with gender roles and you pick up the tab. Yeah. Because we do live in the 21st century. So there you go. That's how cheap we are. Just a couple of meals. But
we're cheap date.
I know
Wetherspoons or McDonald's.
It sounds like a spit roast is on the menu for that meal. Oh. That's all I'm saying.
You are a despicable human being.
I've already acknowledged that in this very podcast.
Okay.
So basically, they were making unfounded claims that this is going to make businesses more profitable.
Well, I don't think it was a great success in Sweden where they had it before, but I mean, I would like to do some more research into that. I'm sure that's what the point that Nima Sanandaji, it's easy for me to say, said in his book. So yeah, it was John Matheson says, feminist activist group, not the best place for a randy old whore. Okay. Good. Right. I don't know which randy old whore he's actually referring to, but no, I think this is a bad idea. It's like anything that government doesn't. California seems to be the home of the idiotic sort of, legislation.
Yes, and we're wondering when the problem with these kinds of legislations is the effects take place over decades, so poor decisions can be made now. And California is still a really rich state, despite the fact that it's totally overregulated. And people can go, look at California. California's doing well. This in the Associated Press. Sorry, I just really wanted to get this quote for you.
Okay.
I don't. Sorry that this is taking a moment. This is. For fuck's sake.
Get on with it, you bungling amateur.
I'm hopeful that our incoming legislature and governor will agree that the right to choose isn't just a slogan, but rather a commitment to improving true access to abortion for students across California. That's not the quote I was looking for. Right, okay. It was just the quote that they presumptuously assume that this is going to create profits, but that one is relevant because he says our commitment, right? When we say equality, we don't just mean it as, oh, this would be favorable. They mean you need to commit to it. My biggest concern about this is what it says about the role of government. The government now has the right to tell private enterprise who they should and shouldn't employ. Yeah. What that implies is you don't own your own business. The government is allowing you the privilege of steering that business to the degree that you do it to government specifications. And, I don't like to throw out the F word, but isn't that kind of the definition of fascism? Which is like the private enterprise is allowed to continue so long as it complies and it fits the mores that the government decides. So the government under fascism decides what is good for the people, the nation, and they have a policy that allows businesses to run so long as they are running in the interests of the government's vision for the nation. So the lefties, the virtue signalers on the left, have this vision of equality. And so long as you run under that vision, you're allowed to exist. That is a very scary precedent to set and I don't like where this is all heading. And if hopefully there will be flight of companies from California to other places to teach them a lesson for this kind of thing. But also, it's terrible for women, because if you do deserve a place on a board, people will assume you're only there because of the quota.
Yeah.
You're a token. And I know I know someone who works in the computer game industry for a company. I won't tell you in which country, because I've already said enough. But basically, they are hitting all these quotas in Canada for they're hitting all these quotas in Canada for employing women, and they're getting government subsidies. The computer game company wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for government subsidies, but they're trying to tick all the boxes to get handouts from the government. And he attests to having women in the company that are completely useless. One of them even goes as far as to say, well, I'm only here because I'm a woman, as though that somehow reflects well on her rather than badly. Like, she's trying to say this company is so sexist because the only reason why they employed me is because I'm a woman. But actually the truth is, it's really, really true, and she's crap at her job. And one of the people who's on a really high salary is just a total social justice warrior and completely incompetent, and she's high up in the food chain. So that's where you're just basically incentivizing people to employ incompetence, and it will create more sexism, because people will be like, oh my God, anytime I meet a woman in this company, they're just so fucking incompetent, and then they get to not like women. So there's
Adam Smith says Ubisoft.
UBI soft. Speaking of the UBI,
I not be soft, I be hard.
Speaking of the UBI, I have a free book on the UBI. Go to beyourselfandloveit.com/UBI and download it for free. Anything else? King Cuck of Gaming Night now, says Adam Smasher, or maybe Archduke. There's a running turf war for most woke dev house in gaming right now. BioWare, maybe. Okay.
Well, I think that's a good place to wind up.
Well, you certainly wind me up. This legislation. So this is my summary of what creeps very, very creepily in terms of the octopus tentacles of the state and the lobsters, the organization of society around the lobsters of liberty. The
lobsters of liberty. I like that.
So basically, the state is every aspect.
Let's change our podcast name to the Lobsters of Liberty.
What, to compete with the Lions of Liberty podcast with Mark Clare. Which I'm tipped to be back on at some point. So keep your ear to the ground. Okay, so basically, I just wanted to say every aspect of everything the government is creeping into, and someone should do something about it.
Something must be done.
There
ought to be a law against it.
No. Right, be libertarians. I won't finish the rest.
Still be dicks.